Good morning. You're live with Channels Television, and this is Sunrise. I am Alero Edu.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. By the way, just to let you know that our director thinks you're looking very regal. Looking like he's just really looking like royalty.
Thank you very much. Thank
it's okay
you,
to
Director.
blush. It's not a sin.
Yes, I am blushing. After 23 years, the director thinks I'm looking regal.
Well,
today.
yeah, I mean,
okay.
It's good to say.
It came out, finally.
Yes, it did.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're most welcome. I'm happy to also convey the message.
Thank you.
And of concurrence with the director this morning.
Thank
and
you.
if you would like to also say thank you, there's the email, right? Sunrise CTV, just to let her know that she's looking amazing. It's okay to blush, but please. Yes, you wanted to say something.
Well, I was going to say that there was something I saw on social media in the course of the week.
Which of them?
That, yeah. Well, I'm a dinosaur, yes. You can tell the whole world.
No,
and I'm not
just
ashamed.
asking which of them, because there are quite a few now.
Get away. And someone said, anybody who is still buying fill up when they go to the fuel station
Should be probed.
Should be probed. Because it means that they are stealing from somewhere. But my partner still says, fill up.
Yes.
When he goes to the filling station, and there is a reason for it.
Yes.
Please tell the world why you still say, fill up.
Before this era, in most cases, I'd wait for my tank to get halfway, and I'll just get to the fuel station and fill it up. I mean, hey.
Now it doesn't even get to quarter.
But now, once the
needle moves
to the first line.
So when he gets to the fuel station and says, fill up, he's probably paying only 10,000 naira.
The interest of peace and stability. And God forbid that anything so happens that, we run out of fuel or queues are gonna whatever. At least I'll still have 1 week of travel time before I have any need.
No, but seriously, guys, seriously. Now, jokes aside, it seems that many people have parked their cars. And I had a chat with a fuel station supervisor.
Okay.
And he said to me, yes, people are buying fuel, but we're making less money because fewer people are buying fuel, and even those who come in are not saying fill up. Give me 10K, give me 15K. And then I also spoke to a marketer who said to me that sales have reduced by about 30% in the south and by as much as 50% in the north.
What makes that worse is people now select which fuel station to buy from.
Yeah, because of the price.
Not just because of the price, but because of the pump. I got into a fuel station. I don't want to mention anyone.
They know themselves.
I hope they do. I bought fuel, and it got at about half tank, and I paid a particular amount of money. Sometime not too long after, I got to the fuel station opposite this particular one. The price was marginally higher. One I bought at 488. This second one I bought at 492.
Okay.
Guess what? I got more value buying from the 492 station than I got at the one that sold for me at 488 previously.
Well, 488, 492.
Why do I say more value? Because I looked at the number of liters I bought.
Yeah.
I paid more at the station that sold at 488 naira per liter than I paid at the one that sold for me at 492 naira per liter.
Oh God, this guy. Is it that these guys are fiddling their pumps now?
So interestingly, the I usually get jovial with the people
Attendants,
who
yes.
serve me because I don't know the kind of hell they've seen before I got there. Let me just make them feel good, make them feel important. So you will laugh. You shall be happy somehow. So we got talking, and this man happened to be my neighbor. Just happened around. It wasn't near the field, the house. Just happened around and said, I know him. So well, anyway, it wasn't even because I was, on TV or anything. He said I attended a state meeting just once, and he never forgot me, and that was eons ago. But, he said now he worked at this particular station at the headquarters in Lagos, and that they have a monitoring system to check the quality and the quantity of each liter. So you can't, but I said, aren't you guys a franchise? I said, yes, but we monitor the franchise so that people don't mess up the brand. And I found that very, very encouraging.
You see, the brand is important.
I found that very, very, it made me feel good.
Yes.
That there are some people who are still looking out for the people, who are still looking out for a brand. Hitherto, I would never have bought at this particular fuel station that I'm talking about. Now, I've even got their, some of them have this cards.
And that's where you go all the time.
I had to, because
they won a customer.
At least I now know that some people are making conscious efforts to ensure that people are not cheated. So it's a clarion call for all fuel stations, particularly the NMDPRA. This was the function of the DPR before, that they will go to the fuel stations to be sure that people are not being cheated.
That you get 1 liter when you are told that you have been sold 1 liter.
1 liter. Yeah. But I don't know how that, especially now, when you buy fuel at 500 naira, 520 naira per liter.
Everybody ID chuku.
I mean,
as they say.
So it's only natural. And then even sometimes they don't, fiddle with the whatever it is. But they make it thinner, so it burns faster. So these are things that we have also heard. So who is monitoring quality and quantity on behalf of Nigerians? Because God forbid that people take these things into their hands.
It's a pity you can't tell us what station this is.
They need to come and pay to...
You have to go and do your own research and discover which one it is and make sure you buy from them most of the time. I'm not demarketing anybody, but you all have to show that you are looking out for Nigerians, especially now.
Absolutely.
Things are hard. Nigerians are struggling to survive. Costs of food in the market.
Gosh.
Cost of everything. And then bakeries now come out in the course of the week and say they are set to increase the price of bread. Hey, God, do you want to kill poor Nigerians? They're carrying such a burden already.
Let the poor
breathe.
Don't suffocate them.
Don't put your knee on their necks.
Oh, you wanted to say something?
Yes. Ex-governor Ogidi stirred the hornet's nest in the course of the week by saying he wanted all his emoluments, well, not emoluments, his benefits from being governor cancelled.
Suspended.
Oh, sorry.
Please.
Yes, I noted that word and I said, okay, he might change his mind next month or next year.
I think what he's saying is now...
While I'm in the House.
While I'm in the National Assembly.
Yeah.
So, well, it's a responsible thing to do, and let's just hope that everyone else will follow suit. He made it public, perhaps to challenge other people who may not even remember that they collect.
They just see the plenty money in their account at the end of the month.
That's going in, But then this is what we call accountability. And as a Nigerian, you don't just sit on your, on your behind and expect that everyone will do what you expect them to do. No. So ask questions. I mean, you live in this particular state. You know your governor or your former governor that is now in the National Assembly. You know your former
and he's collecting
and he's still
double chop,
getting his pension and still getting paid
benefits
for being a member of the National Assembly. So let's not just leave it to them.
Including cars.
Exactly.
Medicals, which he also gets by virtue of the fact that he's in the Senate.
Exactly. So
what does he want to do with two?
you know, let's not just expect that people will do what you expect them to do. Let's ask questions and follow the money.
Right. Anything else on your mind?
Oh, yes. I'm still concerned about my compatriots in the Southeast.
Oh, the sit-at-home thing.
I'm very, very
That was
concerned.
big news in the course of the week.
I'm happy that the police have arrested 15
of them.
suspects.
Yeah.
And paraded them, though didn't show their faces. If you want to see the story, go to channelstv.com's YouTube platform. You'll find the story there. But is that going to be the end of it? Or are we going to have another sit-at-home on Monday? I know, and we all know. In case you don't, here is the information. We have DSS officials in every local government in Nigeria. And I'm talking about local governments in Nigeria. So we know who is going to foment what trouble. We know. What we do with the information that we get, that's another thing altogether. I, for the life of me, and I maintain this all the time, I have implicit confidence in the Nigerian military, in our intelligentsia. I have absolute confidence that they have what it takes to do whatever it is. They may not have all the equipment, but they know what to do and they get the job done. They have the information. And you sometimes give them the information. Do we have your assurance of the security apparatus of Nigeria today that from Monday there will be no sit-at-home? I had to call a journalist colleague of mine in the Southeast in the course of the week and told me that she had to run for her dear life.
Oh, dear.
Simply because, I mean, the governor the previous day had said, don't worry, go about your normal businesses. And these guys came out and said, we are giving order, and your governor is giving order, you are listening,
to the governor.
From then, you will not listen to the governor, you will listen to whatever we tell you to do. That's what you are going to do. And they were beating students. What's the assurance we have that this will not happen again? Please, someone assure us. I don't know how you feel about this, but
I feel very strongly about it. And what irks me the most is, do these people who are doing this realize that the harm is to themselves, is to their state, is to their people? I mean, shutting everything down for 24 hours in a state. I mean, I'm sure the economists would compute and let us know how much exactly is being lost.
On the sideline of that, do you remember Pastor, what's his name? I almost called him Bishop. Babatunde Fashola, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, the former Minister of Works and Housing, saying that 1 day a week off of work is 52 days in a year of no work. That means it's part of the things that delayed the completion of the second Niger Bridge. That's why the needle was moved so many times in that area. Not as bad. We don't have as much traffic there as we have in Lagos. According to him, 40,000 cars on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway every day. You can't stop the traffic. But in the Southeast, during the second Niger Bridge building, of course, there wasn't traffic on the second Niger Bridge anyway. So it could have been easier to get done.
Yeah.
But with 52 days, you are not able to go out of your house, definitely the work will be delayed. So that's just part of the costs.
Yes, yes. It's, you know, what they say in Delta, adumadu body. I mean, you think you are hurting somebody else, but actually you are hurting yourself. It's not fair to grind the whole place to a halt because you have an axe to grind with the government. It's about we've about had enough. We've about had enough.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, what are we talking about this morning on Sunrise? Well, we're going to naturally start with the floods. Preparing for the floods. Preparing. The floods have come already.
Well, I'm happy that something happened yesterday on my way, away from the studio. The Otedola Bridge that used to be flooded whenever it rained heavily was not. Thank you, but let's prepare for other areas of the city. And of course, we'll be talking about the Africa Education Medal. Find out what that is in the course of the program.
And then Lagos Leadership Conference 2023.
About time. Lifestyle today, yes, that's it. peer pressure among teens.
Oh, that's a big one.
Absolutely.
That is a big one. Peer pressure plays a huge part of their life. I mean, my friends think.
It's part of their a lot.
Yes. I'm going through a lot.
Okay.
That's it. And then we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment. And, I can't wait to talk to this person because I haven't heard of or from him for a long time. He's a he, yes. He's a he, yes.
Okay.
So get your cup of whatever you prefer, whether it's cocoa or
Cocoa.
And we'll see you in just a moment when we start the program in earnest.
You are welcome to the next level. When I look up, when I look down, when I look at my side, to reach the top, if you look at person, when I look my side, one day, our Niger go good, now so then they talk. One day, our mumu go do, now so we talk. This country take our hand, rise up and take it command. We they see them, we know they blind. We must fight for our right. Anyhow, mambos die. This next level, now hot water, bubble up. Then just to do what yeah. See them with their big belly. Then go they use religion to cause plenty confusion. Sometimes the tribalism, poverty and nepotism. When hunger fire person, you go weak, you know go fit talk again. Today, I say, breeze go blow, fire nyash go open it, masquerade the face go show. Hey, today, I say, bara woko no, say the owner there for house, bad leaders them go. When I look up, now go motion. When I look down, now frustration. When I look at my side, now to reach the top, now connection. If you look at person, now stagnation. When I look my side, one day, our Niger go good. Now so then they talk. One day, our mumu go do. Now so we talk. This country take our hand. Rise up and take it command. We they see them, we know they blind. We must fight for our right. Anyhow, mambos die. Barikba. Pekin, we no waiting kill him, papa. That's something go kill him. Hey.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's get the show started. The federal government activated its national response plan ahead of what is expected to be another round of annual flooding related to climate change, putting several states on the alert. This comes 2 weeks after at least one person was reported dead, while 4 others got injured as floods swept through Trademore Estate in Lugbe area of Abuja. You know, this flood thing, Ayo, every year before the rains come, we get a warning from NIMET.
November.
And we talk about it on this program. Okay, every year we talk about it, but how much do we prepare for it? That is the question. It's like the floods come and we are still complaining. Okay, oh, flood don't come, or you don't carry house, or people don't die. We don't prepare.
Well, you know, there are two ways, for me, there are two ways to look at it. And maybe our host guests will also be able to help us. There are some things that we can help. There are some things that we cannot help. The ones that
flood we cannot help?
Yes, concerning the flood, there are some things we can help. There are some things we cannot help. For instance, the trade more people, for instance, said that there is something that the authorities could have done that has not been done. You also remember the call made by Senator Benga Daniel on the floor of the Senate also, asking the federal government to take some proactive actions in order for these things, some flood, dam somewhere. And so it's not something for one state, but where is that partnership?
Okay. Yeah. Well, we have a panel to look at this with us this morning, and it's my pleasure to welcome the former Commissioner for the Environment of Ogun State, Mr. Ola Oresanya. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much.
We still remember you from your days at Loma.
Thank you.
Joining us from our studio in Abuja is the Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency, Mr. Clement Nze. Good morning, Mr. Nze.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here.
We also have the Director General, Nigerian Conservation Foundation, Dr. Joseph Onoja, who is joining us via Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I want to start with you, Dr. Onoja, if I may. When we were opening this segment, Ayo and I were talking about how NIMET gives us notice months before the rains come, but how much attention are we paying to it? And nowadays, we hear that the floods are getting worse because of climate change. And when we talk about climate change, you guys seem to be the authority. In your opinion, how much attention are we paying to the issue of climate change? Don't forget that some presidents or heads of state believe that there's no such thing. So we as a people, how much attention are we paying to it? And how much are we doing things to mitigate the effects of climate change?
All right, thank you very much for having me. Let me start by saying that the fact that we deny a reality does not make it not to be real. I mean, it's just like if you are hungry, nobody needs to tell you whether you're hungry or not. For those of us who are old enough, if you especially grew up in a place like Jos or other more cold areas in Nigeria, you will notice that the temperatures have changed. We have places that used to be very cold are not as cold as they used to be. Places that were not as dry as they used to be are now drier. Places that don't flood as they used to be or don't rain as they used to be are now experiencing more rain. So the reality of climate change, whether we deny it or not, is real. And there will be different reasons for different people to why they want to deny it. But the truth is that we cannot deny it for long because it's catching us. Now, talking about the situation that we have at hand is the fact that we don't prepare enough. The impact is already there. And I'm glad that some of the government agencies are here on this panel. You gave an example of the Trademore estates. That estate doesn't have any business to be in such place because a floodplain is a floodplain. By simple definition of floodplain means that it will come back. So it's part of our non-preparedness for it because our preparation is not about preparing now. It's what we have done before now. So we cannot build in floodplain and tell people to prepare for flooding. It's foolhardy, because a floodplain will always flood, even if it's dry at a certain point in time. It shows that when it rains, it will definitely flood because it's a floodplain. So in terms of our preparation, our lack of preparation, and then coupled with the exhibition and the way that climate change exacerbates everything now, makes it even more difficult for us to be able to mitigate anything or adapt to any impact that climate change will have on the increasing occurrences of flooding that we used to see in the country. So to answer your question directly, climate change is real and is exacerbating what we're experiencing. And currently we have the World Meteorological Organization have brought up the alert that we are in the El Nino season. And El Nino will increase whatever has been happening. In some areas, it will be drier. And in some areas where we have where we are prone to much rain, the rains will increase. And for coastal areas like, we have 852 coastline of Nigeria, most of them are going to experience increased wave surge that are going to continue to hit on the land, especially areas like Ayetoro in Ondo State and other coastal towns. So these are just to set the pace for this discussion. And I'm sure we'll talk more on that as the program goes on.
Mr. Resaya, you are the former commissioner for the environment in Ogun State. From your he mentioned floodplains, and he also mentioned Trademore Estate in Abuja. It seems that there is some complicity from, I will not say government agencies, from people who work in government agencies in giving approvals to people to build in places where they should not actually build. Trademore Estate is not a building, an entire estate built on the floodplain. Mr. Resaya, how far, as they say?
Yes, thank you very much for this. I think one thing there's a kind of a trend I see with the public and the expectation from the public office. We tend to assume overcapacity from the public sector. And whereas you have a lot of knowledge gaps, even within the public sector. I've been in the public sector for a long time, and I see a lot of this, even at the decision-taking levels. You have the technocrats, and you have the politicians. The politicians come with the policies, and even there are times the professionals will give certain information. Political decision may override that. So, and usually the consequence come, the political decision, the fellow that took the decision will have left, and will be left with the impact of those decisions. For most of these estates, for most of the settlements, even if the professionals within the ministry will have given advice against it, probably you have somebody who will tell you that it's the minister's brother, it's the president's brother, and they must just approve that area. And this happens a lot in government, and I think things will have to change. We must change this, because by the time the impact will come, okay, it will deprive us of even the public funds. You'll start sending NEMA there to go and start delivering things, and it is the taxpayers that will pay for the consequence of this. So things will have to change, and I want to believe that we'll keep improving because of these realities of some of the consequences of wrong decisions that we take at the public office. So we need to put our best legs in the public office.
You know, what shocks me about this is the institutions, some other institutions that are aligned in this conversation. For instance, from reports available to us, Nigeria Police has more than 100 units in that estate. According to the Estates Association, about 90% or more of the houses on that estate were funded by the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. So is it possible for these two institutions to fund such facility or facilities without doing the due diligence? Or is it possible for them to fund such an estate that's seated in the floodplain and they pump money? The Nigeria police has more than 100 houses there. So for me, there is a lot more, to go in this conversation than what is available to us right now.
Yes, it's possible. For example, the tools for taking decisions. All right, one of it there's a flood vulnerability mapping. For any city, you must have that mapping. All right, and that mapping is a guide to giving approvals into how you use land use pattern. Some of these flood-prone areas are not mapped. So by the time you are given approvals, you are considering other things other than the flood propensity for such an area. It happens in most of the states.
Well, incidentally, thankfully we have Engineer Clement with us, who is DG, Nigeria Hydrological Services. You know, sir, we have, from time to time when the announcements need to be made, you have come on our station, graciously inform us that, look, these are the things that we need to do. There is going to be X number of days of rain, and consequently we need to prepare for them. To the question that Alera asked earlier, her first question about our level of preparedness, what have been your experience with the states? Because at the end of the day, it is in the states that these things happen. The federal government can only do as much, but without the active involvement of the state governments, the apparatus of each state, there really is little that can be done. The example of last year, the flooding in Bayelsa, in Kogi, and a number of other states, is definitely something we can't forget in a hurry. So, speaking about the level of involvement or commitment of state governments across board, what would you say is their level of interest in deploying resources to ensure that we do not have massive flooding that we've had in recent time?
Thank you so much again for having me. I know the theme for this discussion, is talk about preparing for the 2023 flood. In fact, I want to say that you can't be preparing by this time. The best time to prepare for war is during the time of peace. As early as February 17th this year, my agency, the Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency, made a public presentation as to the level of flooding to be expected in the course of the year. However, serious governments, especially the state actors, ought to have been seen doing something even from the month of December, January, February, March. By NIMET prediction, I think from certain part of Nigeria, rains were supposed to start around 2nd of March, February or so. So we made our prediction public before ever the rains set in the course of the year, or even been established across the country. So the burden of the whole problem is that at the subnationals, there seems to be no much response to predictions in terms of taking positive actions, concrete actions on ground to be prepared. It is when the rains have set in, flood is everywhere, then we begin to watch state actors being busy, in quotes. Now, at the federal level, that's where the forecasting agencies are. I don't know of any state that we said that they have been doing any forecast. You have Nigerian Meteorological Service Agency. They came on air on the 24th of January to alert the nation about the level of rainfall we are going to expect in this year. Local government by local government, city by city. Less than a month, the Nigerian Hydrological Service Agency came on air to mention the locations in Nigeria that will be flooded, that 178 local government areas will be highly impacted in the course of the year, and that will cut across 32 states and the FCT. And that additional 224 LGAs in 35 states and the FCT will also suffer another degree of flooding. Their names were listed, those local government areas. This was adequately communicated to the state governments. These are the locations in your state, in writing, communicated to them. But by and large, at a large scale, you discover that less than 10% of the states across the country did anything to forestall the avoidable flood incidents. Now, I thank God that Mr. Dawson mentioned flood vulnerability mapping. The Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency has been carrying out flood vulnerability mapping of the country. We have what we call hydrological areas. For instance, the western littoral, the sisters in the southwest, which are part of Edo State. We carried out using a reputable consultant, international consultant, to carry out that mapping of the entire, what we call is a hydrological area 6, western littoral. And it was properly publicized. People went to the field, visited government agencies in this western littoral. And it was to be publicly presented to the stakeholders. But unfortunately, upon all the publicity given to this program to launch it in Lagos, on that day, it was only a permanent secretary from the Lagos State Ministry of Environment that attended that event. No other state came there. No commissioner came there. The document was presented for them to critique it. It will tell you what you need to do. In fact, I had to call a top government official being schoolmate in the university some years back. Please, I'm here in Lagos. Apart from the letter written officially to him by his position as an advisor, I made a call again. He told me, my brother, I will not be there. I'm going for politics. So this is the challenge. Then when the realities dawn on us, disaster occur everywhere, we begin to run to NEMA. Whereas NEMA is not NEMA's duty as it were. It is when the disaster overwhelms a community, the state comes in. When it overwhelms the state, federal, that is NEMA, will come in. But they seem to be more interested in getting the palliatives from NEMA and not doing the right thing that should be done on ground. Mm-hmm. So back to your question, it's not quite encouraging, the level of preparedness to tackle flooding year in, year out.
But what I mean, from your experience so far, and I'm glad and grateful that you mentioned this particular experience, the example in Lagos. But from your experience, from all of this, you say just about 10% of states usually make any efforts to do whatever is needed. What are the things that they're supposed to do that they left undone? And you also mentioned that NEMA usually gives some form of assistance, or palliatives as you call it. What is it that NEMA gives as by way of support, I assume?
NEMA's assistance is basically in the area of food and non-food items to the victims. That's what NEMA does.
So nothing technical, really?
We have to tell the people that are affected.
Nothing technical?
Food and non-food items.
Okay. Okay, so what are the things that the states are supposed to do that they do not do?
Now, after each flooding season, you can always see the signature of flood in every city. What we call flood marks. You can see it by the tree trunks. You can see it on the bridge piers. You can see it in buildings. Go to Lokoja if you are traveling from Abuja to Lokoja. You will see some story buildings. You will see the handwriting of the flood there. Even if you are a blind person, you will see it. Why not remove those structures that flood has told you, this is my pathway, I have to pass through here?
Okay, Engineer Zek, give us an example. Just 1 second. 2 critical examples. What happened in Bayelsa and what happened in Kogi, just those 2 states. What are the things that the 2 state governments at the least should have done or should do to ensure that we do not have anything close to what happened last year?
Well, you cannot avoid flood, so to say, but you can reduce the impact of it. That is disaster aspect of it.
Exactly.
Now, look, taking into account the 2 states you have mentioned, they are in a precarious location. Kogi State, for instance, is the epicenter or the meeting point of the 2 rivers, Niger and Benue. And these days, globally, we talk about developing resilience. We talk about trying to find a way to adapt. One way of doing this, as early as possible, evacuate the people from those flood-prone areas. There has to be some measure of adaptation.
Take them where?
What you can now put in your own developmental agenda in your state with regards to flood. How will the people adapt to this situation? Evacuate people from the flood plains. Bayelsa, for instance, is whatever happens, there are what we call Niger Basin. Niger Basin, 9 countries in the West and Central Africa. All that happens in terms of flood, from Guinea-Conakry to Chad, Guinea-Conakry to Mali, to Niger, to Benin Republic on the River Niger axis, and inflow from Burkina Faso and Côte d'Ivoire on the River Niger axis, and then River Benue from Cameroon, and inflow from Chad. They will all meet in Lokoja. And before they exit into the Atlantic Ocean, they must pass through Bayelsa and other states in the south-south. So the best you can do is find a way to adapt. Find a way to develop resilience of your people. Evacuate people at a certain critical time of the year. Let them be safe. And then there are little small rivers within these states. You can deseed these rivers to increase the carrying capacity. Deseed the rivers so that the flood will find more space. And you can construct some structures within the banks or within the shores of these rivers or even the ocean to push back. Like Bayelsa is maybe about 2.5 meters above the sea level in Bayelsa. Find a way to reduce what will be coming in from the ocean, upland.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that could be done at the right time to forestall the negative impact of flooding. Evacuate the people. I recall in Kogi State, for instance, and actually across the states, about 24 states, the federal government built what we call maybe flood hostels for people to go and stay during this period. Those hostels, 48 of them, 2 per state, that are critical with regard to flood. We have made several efforts. This was done under the Presidential Committee of Flood Relief and Rehabilitation, co-chaired by Aliko Dangote and Olusegun San. States are being pleaded to make use of these hostels, work with the federal government. There are clinics in those places, there are boreholes and so many things there. States should be able to help work with the federal government in those locations to ensure that at this point in time, evacuate the citizens, your citizens to those places. Don't leave it to the state. Most of the time, those places are lying fallow. The clinics are we've been urging the state government, take ownership of these clinics in these locations. Okay. Let it, after the flooding season, it can serve you in your state for your citizens to go and take medical care. But nothing is done year in, year out. Okay. Leave it left to the federal government to do. Okay.
Dr. Onoja, let me bring you in at this point. We can't talk about flooding without mentioning drainage. From what you have noticed, are the new settlements, the new areas being built up, are they equipped with adequate drainages? And 2, those that are already built up, Are the drainages being maintained such that when floods come, the drainage channels actually do their jobs?
All right, thank you very much. First of all, let me dial back to what Mr. Nze said. From what he said clearly, it shows that it's not lack of probably planning or the proper documentation that we have. It shows that we have the vulnerability mapping, flood vulnerability mapping, and I'm sure cities have urban plan. The environment is planned, or the cities are planned. So if you superimpose the planned city and then the vulnerability mapping on top of each other, you will see clearly where people are not supposed to build or where construction is not supposed to be going on. And let me state this clearly, that please, it is not a crime for an area to be left green or a wetland to be left the way it is. It is not a crime, because it's like in Nigeria, when we see areas that are clear, that are left alone, we think that they are wasting also. No, it is not a crime. Now, coming to your question about cities that are, recent cities that are coming up, unfortunately, some of those cities are not well planned, even with the lessons that we have learned from these places that are being flooded. We don't have good drainage systems that in some of those cities or some of those areas that are coming up, and which are supposed to be an opportunity for us to correct the wrongs that have been done in the older cities or in the older areas that are already built. So it behoves on developers to ensure that we put flooding into recognition, especially now that we are seeing an increase in the incidence of flood. Now, talking about the older cities, I must tell you that some of the drainage plans have been distorted. And I'll bring our center, the Lekki Conservation Center, as a case study. Now, the Lekki Conservation Center these days, we take a lot more water than we are designed to take. Why? Because the drainage master plan of the Lekki area has been distorted. Our center is supposed to serve as a buffer to collect excess water and release it gradually into the creeks that goes into the lagoon. But the drainage system, the drainage master plan has been distorted such that on the eastern part of the reserve, all the drainages there have been blocked, so that all the water that come all the way from Agungi and the Chevron axis end up into the Lekki Conservation Center, and we are receiving so much water now that we shouldn't be receiving, because there is no more outlet again. And that's something that the state government needs to look into. I'm using this opportunity to call on the state government to look into. And that goes to also show what is happening in other areas. Apart from the fact that the drainages have been blocked by deliberate people who are building on drainages, or some who are doing indiscriminate disposal of our waste, especially plastics, that have blocked our drainages. All of this thing has caused us to continue to suffer from some people's irresponsibility, because few people are suffering from many other persons' irresponsibility. Many people are suffering from few people's irresponsibility in terms of lack of proper drainage system, and that's what I'm talking about. You can see the level of water in our center. We shouldn't be receiving this much water, but well, that's what the center is made for anyway. We are receiving this water, doing this ecosystem service for the community there. So imagine this level of water is unleashed on the community around us. Then certainly we will have much more disaster in our hands. So we need to, number one, ensure that our drainages are well planned, and apart from being well planned, they are maintained and nobody distorts the plan. Because we find people building on drainages and distorting the drainage master plan in areas. And areas that are being developed newly, we should ensure that the amount, number one, if you've done your vulnerability mapping, you will be able to know how much water you'll be receiving in that area, and that will determine the level or the depth of drainage or the system of drainage that should be in those areas, which I'm not sure many developers are taking into consideration. And I call on the state government and its agencies to ensure that this is enforced. If not, majority will suffer, as I said, for some few people's irresponsibility.
Well, Mr. Resoya, you have been commissioner for Lagos, for environment in Lagos. Now you have also been commissioner for the environment in Ogun State. I see that you are worried. You cited a problem the other time of people using their privileged positions and access to overrule some of these things. But is there anything you can say to the issues that he's just raised about some people distorting the urban master plan?
Well, thank you very much. Once again, let me, by way of correction, I was not Commissioner for Environment in Lagos,
Okay.
but the Managing Director of Law. I was in charge of West.
Good, thank you.
All right. Yes, I've listened to those comments out there, but let me start from even understanding what the subject matter here. Flood. Flood is a consequence of mismanagement of stormwater. Okay, it's a consequence. It's a negative word. Okay, the word flood is as a result of mismanagement of stormwater that must definitely come, and it also come as a result of probably natural events, which probably sea level rise that will impede the flow of your stormwater really into the collector bodies. Now, looking at decision taking and the rest of it, one thing is knowledge. I listened to the DG Nimet about knowledge that been released to subnationals, and not much is being done with those knowledge. I tell you, one thing is knowledge, another thing is the capacity to be able to apply this knowledge to solve problems. There's a capacity gap.
Whose capacity?
Are the subnationals.
Authorities.
Yes, it's in applying this knowledge and being able to relate your decision of today with the consequence of tomorrow. All right, even if you have a self-interest, you need to have a bigger, larger picture. You need to take right decisions, right? And I listened to him also talking about his frustration, not getting the right people to attend the program. Well, I would just want to tell him that, well, not holding forth for the policy holders that avoided them, but we need to know that during election year, you're talking to a politician, during election year, you have to be very careful. He's more interested in a re-election than in this. So I think what Nimet should have done, what hydrological service agency should have done was to look at after election and to bring out this, or very early in December to have done this program. Maybe more office holders will have attended the program. But then, this information, we can still disperse it. You have the permanent secretaries in those ministries who are there, who actually will take these decisions. Now, talking about drainage being distorted and the rest of it. Yeah, these are the kind of things. Because most of these policy managers don't really understand the essence of these conservation zones. It's like, oh, there's an empty land there. And the first thing that comes is the economic value. Look, and usually these threats come within the urban center. So this encroachment within these wetlands, and these wetlands are the real recharge zone for underground water, and they are receptacles for the tidal balancing. When you have a high tide, these wetlands are to receive the body of water, to hold forth, and allow it to regress when you have the low tide. You have many areas in most of our cities, all right? Especially everybody wants to build and see the seaside and see the seafront. And doing that, yes, you can do that. But then there must have been a digital elevation modeling that should have been done that will tell you at what level you can build in that area. Look at the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road itself, and maybe around the channels. Yeah. The bridge on that road, entering Lagos, that bridge is a decompile, okay? The level at which you have that bridge, okay, shows you that the level you have to operate, because that area receives the tidal lock. Whenever you have a tidal lock at the Lagos Lagoon, it flows back to the Ogun River, and these are areas where you collect that water. That water must reside in these are conservation zones. But basically, you already have a lot of estates taking over these zones.
I have a challenge you with something that you said, Mr. Osoya.
Yes.
When you say that we have a capacity gap. You have governed the Ministry of Environment in Ogun State.
Right.
I have a feeling, I have never worked anywhere there, but I have a feeling that most of the people who would populate these ministries will be subject matter experts of sorts. You can't put, for instance, someone who is a master in agriculture and put the person in the aviation ministry. So I would assume that the people who work within the ministries, they are subject matter experts. They know what to do.
Yeah.
But so when you say we have a capacity gap, I would like to understand what you mean.
Okay,
because
fine.
it is not because they don't know what to do. That's my belief. It's not because they don't know what to do. Whether or not it gets done as and when, that's, I think, is the challenge here.
Well, we're talking about capacity gap. It's probably not the technocrats. You have technocrats in most of these organizations. But now you have two levels of people working in most of the institutions. You have the politicians, who are the policy drivers, and you have the technocrats, all right? Policy makers come, the politicians will come with their own interest, all right? And the technocrats will be able to analyze it and give you the right thing. So you always have to be able to relate the consequence of your political decisions and match it with the technical advice. If there's a gap in here, all right, you always have this problem. Talking about building an estate, and the flood engineers tell you, you cannot build in that area. That's the area supposed to be the conservation zone. And the political office holder looks at the amount of money that's going to be paid for the state government over there. So you have a lot of conflict of interest in that area. I'm not talking about my state alone. I'm talking generally. Okay. These are things that happen in public office.
I'm sorry, I know that we have two other guests, but
yes.
My head is just buzzing about something that Engineer Nze said about relocating people.
Right.
If memory serves me right, and you're in a good enough position to be able to assist me if I fail here, that at some point, people had to be moved from the old Lagos Island to what they call the new Lagos, which is now called Surulere. There must have been a reason for that.
Yeah.
So is it impossible, absolutely impossible, to relocate people from flood areas? I ask that because flying over Nigeria, from one state to the other, from one locality to the other, you see green lands all over the place. Yeah. And I'm wondering, why should we be having loss of life? Why should we have loss of lives when there is a flooding? Why we have these lush green areas that are not as flooded? Is it so difficult?
Well, yes, it's very difficult. I mean, relocating, human settlements, it's not an easy thing. The Lagos one that you refer to, moving from Lagos Island to Surulere, it was not for flood reasons. All right, it was because there was a new federal territory then that has to, yes, so it was not for flood reason.
Yeah, now, I agree, but I'm just saying at least
for whatever reason.
For whatever reason, people were migrated.
Yes.
It is not easy. It is not easy. A resettlement plan is a very, very complicated thing. Now, majority of the people that are settled in the wetland, that you have them blocking this channel, majority these days you find out that they are there without approvals. The Kogi State, the Kotonkafi area, for example, you have a lot of people who were initially maybe fishermen and they were all wanted to settle beside the Niger River. They settled within that valley. And over time, yes, maybe government should have stopped them, okay, from multiplying and multiplying, but over time they were left alone, and by the time you stay in a place for more than 10 years, you already have a legal title. All right, now moving those people out, it's a major, major problem.
Okay, engineers, having heard this, how else, any other option that you think government can look at if, as you've heard Mr. Osoya say, relocating people from danger zones, let's call it that, is such a job of work?
That's quite correct. To relocate people from their natural environment where they have lived for decades to a new place is not an easy assignment. I alluded to that when you talk of finding a way to adapt. Find a way to adapt. Some years back, I think 2014, Niger State government talked about the provision they have for their citizens who live and do their businesses within the banks of River Niger, what they call wet housing and dry housing schemes. We know the period of flood, maybe for 3 months, depending on the location. Provision could be made for people to move, possibly transact their business in the daytime within those flood plains, whether they are fishermen or whatever thing they do there. And then they finish, they go upland. Now, during this period of flooding, say, depending on the location, maybe for about 3 months. So that they will not have their critical items and livelihood being kept in a place that is vulnerable to flooding. So that's the issue of adaptation, finding a way to live with it. Like we talk about climate change has come to stay with us. The best we can do is to develop resilience, find a way to adapt, that after the end of the day, you can come back to your normal life after the flooding cycle.
Okay. Well, Dr.
But to
Onoja,
move people completely out of their is difficult.
Okay. Well, Dr. Onoja, I saw a list. I'm pretty sure you've seen it. Everyone on this panel must have seen it as well. To the video, actually, of the top 10 sinking cities of the world. Unfortunately, I found Lagos on that list. What can be done in the immediate, in the medium term or in the long term to secure maybe the state or the people?
Well, there are serious engineering work that should be done, but there are some that we can start off immediately. Because if we allow them to stay for long, then it becomes even more difficult to be able to do. For instance, the Lekki-Epe axis, and talking about the coastline erosion that is happening, we have some groins which the Lagos state government has put there in conjunction with the federal government, but there is a need for more groins to be put there. Now, when they talked about the sinking city, it's not because of the cities are going down on their own, but because they are coastal cities, the level of ocean is rising. Our oceans are rising, and that is the truth. We have rising ocean, and as the oceans continue to rise, the cities will continue to sink, and Lagos is one of them. And one of the things that we can do to help our citizens and to help our city is to continue with the engineering work that is happening at the coastline that is happening, not just in Lagos, but also, as I mentioned, Ayetoro as well. And apart from that, we need to continue to maintain these green areas. Now, these green areas help us to be able to, it's part of the adaptation measures. Now, you see, when we talk about disaster management, we have, first of all, mitigation. Mitigation is like stopping something from happening. Now, if you pass the stage of mitigation, then you are talking about adaptation. Now, if you cannot adapt, that's where you want to build resilience. Now, most times we are between adaptation and resilience building. That is where we are, and at the stage as we are in the resilience building chapter in this sinking cities scenario. And that is where serious, well thought out engineering plans have to come up to secure the vulnerable areas, especially areas that are closer to the coastline. And then people should stop henceforth any deteriorating effects or activities that they are doing on especially with the, well, as we have talking about development that are going on in vulnerable areas. Because when you develop those vulnerable areas that are supposed to provide protection to the generality of people, it makes everybody now vulnerable to all of these things. So we need to stop developing those areas and continue to build strong engineering structures that will be able to help us. And that's the stage we are currently, because we have destroyed the green infrastructure that was supposed to help provide that kind of buffer to us. For instance, most of our mangroves are destroyed. And our mangroves are put there to be able to break the current from the ocean. But most of these mangroves have been destroyed.
Okay.
And because they have been destroyed, then we have to put on engineering infrastructure, that's brown infrastructure, to be able to build that resilience.
Mr. Nze, today is the 8th of July. How much more rain are we expecting? You did say that it was too late for us to prepare for the floods, that we should have started preparing since December, January, February. Okay, the rains have come, but are we expecting more than we have had already?
Usually, annually, the critical months of the flood incident in Nigeria are the months of July, August, and September.
Okay.
In fact, last year it was a terrible one that as late as October, it was still heavy.
Okay.
So we are still far away from seeing the end of it.
Okay.
So
Mr.
the
Nze,
critical months of flooding in Nigeria, or rainfall in Nigeria, July, August, and September.
okay. So the rains
And
are
again,
still
during
coming.
this period,
The rains are still coming, and they're going to get heavier.
exactly,
They're going to get heavier.
exactly.
So we have not adequately prepared. But surely there's still some things that we can do so we don't get carried away with the floods.
We talk about mobilizing. Let the state governments sensitize their citizens who are within these locations, relocate them, find a way to cushion the effect of the flood that is likely to come.
But you have said it's not easy to relocate
Where it is
people.
possible, you can still clear the drainages.
Mr. Nze, you said yourself that it was not easy to relocate people. And you want the government to do that in this short period of time?
That's what I mentioned, an example that happened in Niger State. And in addition to that, we are Africans and our brothers and sisters keepers. So it is better for you to be safe than to remain in that ancestral home and then be lost and not know even where your bodies may be littered. So when this critical period, even if it's 1 month or whatever, you can make do with stay with close relatives to save your life. Remove whatever is valuable that you have within you in those flood plains.
Okay.
The state should do whatever they can. Like I mentioned about the federal government having built 48 flood hostels in some states that are quite critical. Federal government provided that.
Okay.
State government should also help to ensure that their citizens are taken to those locations.
Okay. Well,
Federal government equally provides food stuff for them there too.
Okay.
States should join hands with them, with the federal.
all right, let me ask Mr. Oresanya. Well, you heard states definitely have a crucial role.
Right.
At the center of all these things that we're talking about, at the center is people. Relocating, people. Lives at stake, people. Property loss, people. How do we communicate whatever needs to be communicated to the people?
Well, I think what we can do quickly now for most of the states, all right, is to have what we call the flood response agencies or flood response units.
Do we have them?
I think most states do have them, but maybe they can improve on what they have. Quickly, these are things that can be done quickly, and you have how you respond to people that must be evacuated, if they must be evacuated, and you give advisory. Education can still be done. Intensive education. Intensive awareness campaign.
It has to be very, very down to earth, Mr. Oresanya, because the trust is so deficient now that people will believe that once they move out, it's because government wants to take over their land.
No, they need to be able to relate this quickly to what the trend. You need to show the flood trend and let the people see that, look, this is what's going to happen. Whether they believe you or not, the state must respond. There must not be loss of life. Then, apart from that, we're not talking about a great loss of agricultural production. Food.
Yeah.
Food. We need to give advice to farmers so that we don't lose the farmlands now. There's a whole lot that can still be done between now and when you have, the flood, the prediction, the arrival trend. Okay, we need to give advice to people on arrival trend of this flood, the flood that will come, when the flood will be at your location, and what you should do. These are things that can still be done quickly by the state government. And the national government needs to handle this because it's a transboundary issue. And the national government should not wait for lamentation by NEMA to start now giving blanket and start giving food. That is not it. We should prevent that. We should prevent that. We should give education. And at the national level, quickly, these are transboundary issues. We should be able to plot arrival time of flood for each location, for each state, so that each state must know in the next 1 week, this level of flood is coming. Rainfall does not mean flood. Because we're going to have high rainfall does not mean you're going to have a flood. It is when you don't manage your stormwater properly, that is when it becomes flood and it becomes devastating. So action will be taken.
National Orientation Agency, where are you?
In Abuja.
We should not wait for people to die before we begin to look for what to do. We've got advice from the experts now. We didn't start early, fine, but there's still a few things we can do that can help save lives. NOA and the other agencies, Atoto Ariri, here we come. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our panel made up of the former Commissioner for the Environment of Ogun State, Mr. Ola Oresanya. Mr. Clement is Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, as well as Dr. Joseph Onoja, Director General, Nigerian Conservation Foundation. Thank you very much for coming to share your insights with us. I sincerely hope that those who are supposed to do things to save lives this season were listening to this conversation and will rise up to the occasion. Sunrise will be back in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do make sure that you join us.
Progressive Governors Forum most heartily congratulate all the newly inaugurated principal officers of the National Assembly. Your emergence as principal officers is a call to higher national service, especially now that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is determined to implement his Nigeria's Renew Hope programs. Given the critical roles you are expected to play along with your colleagues in the two chambers, you cannot afford to disappoint Nigerians and the various political parties that produce you. It is on that score that I urge all of you and the leadership of the entire National Assembly to work assiduously for the benefit of the country. Once again, congratulations.
Senator Hope Uzodinma CON, Chairman Progressive Governors Forum and Governor, Imo State.
The Duchess International Hospital opened its doors in October 2021. The mission of the hospital is to reverse medical tourism. We take particular care here at the Duchess to bring together a combination of the brightest and the best locally, as well as Nigerians in the diaspora who are interested in returning to do very good work for the benefit of our patients here in this country.
The good thing is that we have all international expertise here, all international facilities here, international people working here. Everything is coming together in a space which was considered not great in terms of the availability of healthcare.
Access Bank, of course, has been able to provide us with a robust range of products and services that has enabled us to deliver that standard and quality of healthcare that is integral to our mission as an organization.
Wherever you go, Teramashe. Whatever you do, Teramashe. Yo, your time done they gone. Yo, your beats done they done. You think say God in order for your side, and you want to find another way to prosper. You think say God
àsìkò ló dààmú ẹ̀dá. Ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa.
Àní ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, yóò lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, lọ́wọ́. Àní ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, lọ́wọ́.
Kí ni gbẹ́dọ́gbẹ́dọ́ fẹ́ fi kí ọ̀gẹ̀dẹ̀ gbẹ́? Kí látẹ́gùn fẹ́ fi igi gẹdú ṣe? Ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa ló wà. Ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa ló wà.
Ire tèmi kò máa ní kọjá mi o.
Ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa ló wà. Edis, congratulations. Edis, congratulations. Iretemi, komani konyami. Iretemi, komani konyami.
Wherever you go, Tara Moshe o. Whatever you do, Tara Moshe o. Yo, your time done they gone. Yo, your beats done they done. You think say God in order for your side, and you want to find another way to prosper. You think say God in order just get your time.
So let's talk about leadership. Yeah, we just saw it now, the Lagos Leadership Conference. It's an annual international leadership platform bringing together leaders from all segments of society to share ideas and give fresh insights from notable leaders from within and outside Nigeria. The vision is to assist in building the leadership capacity of leaders, particularly corporate, political, business, religious, women, youth. Please, I'll underscore that one. Youth. The overall aim is to contribute a quota in reducing the leadership deficit in the nation. We have a panel from the strategic committee here with us this morning. Ademola Adeniro is a member who is representing the DG of the LLC 2023 Strategic Committee. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We also have Mr. Shino Joseph, who is the secretary of the committee. Thank you so much for joining us. As well as Mr. Femi Amino, also a member of the Strategic Committee.
Thank you.
Well, when I hear Strategic Committee like that, it's a very, very heavy title. So let me start with you, Mr. Adeniro. For those who are seeing this or hearing about all of this for the first time, what makes this different from every other leadership, whatever, out there?
Thank you for the question. There are many leadership styles out there. For example, the Harvard Business School actually identified 6 major leadership styles: the coercive, the authoritative, the affiliative, democratic, pace-setting, and the coaching. But Shepherd leadership is primarily a faith-based leadership style drawn from the biblical templates of leaders in the Bible, like Moses, like David, who are shepherd. And it draws from these 6 leadership concepts of, models of even the Harvard Business School. What differentiates it is that it's a leadership template or leadership style that is rooted, number 1, in love. Number 2 is rooted in sacrifice. The shepherd will leave maybe 99 sheep and run after a lion that took one. It is sacrificial. Then you need capacity and integrity. It is rooted in the achievement of goals. But in order to achieve these goals, the people that we are using to achieve them, your followers must believe in your integrity, that you have their objectives in mind. And in working with you to achieve these objectives, they will naturally be fulfilled, not by coercion, but from the bottom of their heart, working on a common objective.
You know,
that's the general view or overview of the Shepherd leadership.
Okay. You know, Mr. Joseph, as he was speaking, and he said that the shepherd will leave the leader. Now, let's use that
99.
word. Will leave 99 and chase after one. A politician. Because you said political leaders are part of the people.
Yeah.
They work with numbers. They hire, the majority have the way.
Yeah.
Minority have their say. You are now saying that the shepherd will abandon the majority
And pursue
the minority. I don't understand. Well, I know I'm stuck in a fire, but...
Yes.
Thank you very much. I mean, when we talk about number in politics, it's before the election and during the election. After the electioneering, the political leadership no longer look at numbers, but they look at the people. And when he was talking about, the shepherd going after one and leaving the 99, basically is talking about, okay, the leader that we call the shepherd leader needs to build relationship, needs to be trusted, must be caring and have empathy. So it's not just because living is, it's not living relatively the responsibility of leadership, but it's more concerned that a citizen of Nigeria is in trouble anywhere in the world. The leader, that's a shepherd leader, must show interest, must be concerned about that individual, and must be willing to do everything within his or her capacity to ensure that single sheep is brought back to the fold.
You know, perhaps
so much is within the law.
Yeah, perhaps the point being made there is, okay, the 99 are not as
risk.
At risk.
Yeah, not at risk.
As the one
who has strayed from the fold.
Who has strayed from the fold. But even the 99 in Nigeria will be wondering, excuse me?
Mr. Aminu.
You want to answer that?
No. I wanted to say, for example, take the case of, let's say there is a flood somewhere, like we had last year. What we are saying is that the leader will do everything sacrificially, right, in order to fix that problem. The others are not at risk now. But the place where there is risk, the one that is in danger now, that is part of us, that if one suffers, all of us suffer. And it is their turn today, it will be another person's turn tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Aminu, tell us the kind of impact that this conference has had over the years, particularly in the specific fields that you mentioned: political space, corporate space, business, religious, women, and youth. What are the, for want of a better word, testimonies that have come from the previous conferences, and what to look forward to?
Okay, thank you for that question.
You see, yours is easier.
I think I'm lucky then. Okay, let's put it this way. That's very interesting. And it's been a conference that has been on for like 16 years. So if we even try to double backwards, some of us are even a product of the conference. And it's always done in the form of a 2-day program. So such that the first one focuses on politics and corporate governance. So it's almost like trying to help in terms of, we see the leadership deficit in Nigeria and how can we add value to that. So it's almost like in a venue, you bring all people together and they keep learning. And like last year, we had a team leading in terms of darkness and confusion. Now it's shepherd leadership. So it's almost like trying to impact those things and then cause them to apply those principles. That's on one hand. Over the years, we've always had attendance ranging from when it started in a small way. Last year, we're looking at maybe like 1,000 to 2,000. those days. Just people come in and people come virtually. And so you can imagine they take those lessons and go back to learn. Significantly, I think in 2020, during the COVID season, we're privileged to have the governor of Lagos State. We know the antecedent of what he did in terms of the leadership during those COVID session. That's also another thing in terms of impact. In terms of saying specific impact, it may be a bit not easy to pick at that, but I also remember that there's one of the years in which we had an event. We actually did more like an award for more like a community, raised a community leader, looked around someone that is doing something, and that ties a lot to this issue of shepherd leadership. These days for you to run an NGO, more like trying to give from what you don't necessarily have, not as if you're compelled or you get something. So we celebrated about 2 leaders that we call unsung hero that were looked out in the community. And that was really, really, really very, very profound. And I know when you were starting, you mentioned something on youths. The reality is like, look, people are moving ahead in terms of over the years, but now we're trying to say, okay, let's show the young generation, you understand, the way, the pathway to follow. This is what will actually guide you. Yes, you might not have seen things done in the way you expect, but this is what you can see. But for me, so I feel the impact has been tremendous. And an area I didn't mention is also ministry. The Saturdays, that's the next, it's a 2-day program often, is always dovetailed towards ministry. So it's almost like, look, not just making things spiritual, but let's say how you lead people. Because at the end of the day, it's about humanity. It's not just about system and structures.
Mr. Deniro, Mr. Aminu mentioned that this has been going on for about 16 years. How much impact would you say this has had on leadership in our country? Because when people talk about all the things that are wrong in our country, they zero it down to bad leadership. So how much impact has this had on Nigerians and on those who aspire to rule us or who are ruling us?
Let me say, over the 16 years, the conference has grown in leaps and bounds.
Okay.
When we started about 16 years ago, the number was very small, the participants. But over the years, especially with the caliber of personalities that come to speak at these forums, many people have been inspired and transformed. I'm an example of this. Because when you come for this conference, number one, you are really challenged. You are challenged to have a new perspective of life, a new perspective of leadership. The caliber of people that have spoken in these conferences are top people in government. Like in this year, Obi Okwesilese will be speaking. In our previous sessions, even the Vice President, Yemi Oshibajo, has spoken. We have leaders, not only in Nigeria, but from international space that come to speak in Nigeria in these forums. And they've been leaving their footprint. Because of the impact, the conference has been increasing. Like this year, we're expecting about 4,000 participants, both online and physical. In the past, it wasn't up to that. It is a testimony to the impact that it has, that it has not stopped. We have been growing. And there has been many testimonies otherwise. Even corporate organizations, they have been sponsoring it because they see the impact, even on their own business and on their own staff. Banks are sponsoring. Major companies, for example, in real estate, for example, one of them is even a major partner with us now because they see the value, they see the impact. In terms of how it has affected the national life, I would say the people that attended, the values they take away, the new conviction they take away, one way or the other will influence their leadership style for the better. Thank you.
Okay. Well,
we pray so.
Okay. Well, Mr. Joseph, we've spoken about the impact, but well, just before we get too carried away, tell us, the details of this conference this year, the venue, the date, the time. Is there a website people can go to and quickly check? And those who may even have questions for you might even send it to us via Twitter now.
Thank you very much. The conference this year is holding at Resurrection Ground, that is RCCG, Resurrection Parish, at first gate, number 1, Resurrection Way, Lekki. And we have a website that anybody could go to and register for. The beauty of the conference this year is that it's free. You don't need to pay, but registration is mandatory. Okay. And you can register at www.llconference.com. www.llconference.com. llconference.com. You can register there and be part of the conference. You can indicate whether you want to register, you want to attend virtually, or you want to be physical attendee. And the day 1, as we've been told, is for corporate and political leaders. And then we have 4 speakers that will be speaking. Okay, the convener of the conference is Pastor Charles Pandy, who will be leading the day by setting the tone on shepherd leadership. And it will be followed immediately by the chairman of council of CIBN, Dr. Ken Opara, who will be speaking on driving professional excellence through shepherd leadership. And immediately after that, we have the MD-CEO of Keystone Bank.
So this is the website?
Yes, please.
And these are the speakers you're speaking about.
So you have the MD-CEO of Keystone Bank, who will be speaking on building a great enterprise using shepherd leadership. And then we have another leader, a pastor, and also MD-CEO of La Casara, that's Pastor Chinedum Okereke, will be speaking, sharing practical experiences on shepherd leadership. And we will round up the day with our beloved sister, mother, Dr. Mrs. Obi Ezekwesili will be talking about building a great nation using shepherd leadership. So that's the day 1. And the day 2 is...
Day 1 is what date?
That is old. Thank you very much. July 14th is day 1. And day 2 is July 15th, and that will be for the ministry, youth pastors, church leaders across different denominations. It's open to everybody. And we'll have the convener taking the team to the next level by speaking on the art of a shepherd. And then we have Pastor Yemi Davis of the Global Impact Church that will be coming to speak on building a compelling future using shepherd leadership. So all these are what we have packed. And then we have our own beloved daddy, an Assistant General Overseer, the Overseer of Continent 3 or Continent 2 of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Ezekiel Odeyemi, will be speaking on the theme for the year, shepherd leadership. So that's what we have for the 2 days. It's well packed, and the expectation is high, and we believe this year lives will be transformed. Leaders will begin to see the need not to only be a coercive leader, but a caring, a sacrificial, a leader with integrity, and a leader that has competence. That's what the...
Okay. Well, Mr. Aminu, my heart goes to the young people. Every time I have the privilege of being on this platform to host any program, I cannot... I can't shade my passion for young people, because if we lose it with the young people, we have lost it in the future. So now, speaking about the shepherd leader, sacrificial leadership, and all of those things, in the light of the current realities of young people in Nigeria today, how do you see them receiving this message? And what would you advise that they should do in order to be well prepared to attend, prepared and willing to attend this conference? Because servant leadership for young people who themselves need a lot, I mean, it's a tough call, don't you think?
I agree with you, and you're spot on. What I would rather say in that light is that's the key point, because what they've seen generally doesn't speak to it. And that's why in selecting the speakers that are brought on board to speak in these conferences, I want to take people that can show the example. What we've seen is that the young ones need to see someone model. What has brought them to this point in which they don't believe again is because what they've seen. They've not actually seen something that actually depicts what people preach. And that's why the essence is, okay, bring in such people to come to speak. People that have the pedigree, people that have also shown that example. For instance, speaking in terms of Obi Ezekwesili, also speaking in terms of ministry of Yemi David from the perspective of ministry. And, you know, even the teams here will be speaking on providing a compelling future using shepherd leadership concept. It's really a tough call, but we believe, because as we keep preaching and pushing and pushing, now I know the trend of what you call the jackpot trend, if I'm allowed to say that. But the reality is, like, not everyone will leave. There will still be people that will stay. And these ones need to know that, look, they have a future in this nation and they can drive things to where we're going. And, you know, taking it from the perspective of the, what do you call it, shepherd leadership. And for me, if I look back and I try to look at things from even other nations, if we really look at it, some of these things are not new. There was a time in which people were moving out of the nation in droves, but they came back. And if I look at countries like India and like, what do you call it, China, people that are coming back, the diaspora, making a difference, are people that actually went away and came back. So for me, I believe it's hope. And it's key to know that, look, this conference is about preaching the message of hope. We must keep hope, because things will get better in this nation, regardless of how things are seen now.
I smiled when you said that, because you know that the message of our current president
is that of hope.
Renewed hope. So we're all talking about the same thing, that nobody should give up on this country. Exactly. And just this morning, my partner and I were saying, okay, Nigeria is not good. Nigeria is not good. Oh, food is expensive. Oh, there's no petrol. Oh, this, oh, that. You leave this country, and within 5-6 days, you are dying to come back.
Yeah.
True or false?
True.
But that message is not often preached.
So there is something about this country. Even if you jackpot, Nigeria is still your country.
As my pastor would say, you will jackpot.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this. Before you can add it, but he spoke about young people. Yeah. Let me speak about, I'd like you to speak about women. In a patriarchal society such as ours, how can we give that message? What are the women to expect from this conference about shepherd leadership? What should they be expecting? Because they are one of the categories. I usually pick the youth and the women.
Thank you for the question. I was going to add to what he was saying. Let me start with that on the youth. Let me say the people that have shaped my life, even personally, are examples of shepherd leadership. When I was in banking, for example, I had 2 leaders, 2 managers or 2 bosses that were shepherd leaders. Concerning the youth, what we want to do is to rewrite the template for them, to rewrite the paradigm they are running with now, the paradigm of get rich quick, shortcut to success, of duplicity, of we want to speak to the character of greatness. Character is the foundation, the right character and the right paradigm is the foundation of greater for individuals and for a nation. For them, whatever wrong coding or programming they are having now, we want to speak to youth to correct that. We want to speak to integrity as a fundamental character that they should have. We want to speak to sacrifice. We want to speak to humility so that they can correct and reset whatever wrong things they have. Now, concerning the women, the message is the same. And for the youth too, in whatever level they are, youths also assume leadership positions, even at their level. And as they go up, they will still be assuming higher leadership positions, whether in their universities in their small groups or teams that they want to achieve some goals, let them start practicing the shepherd leadership, where people follow you because they love you and they trust you, and they are ready to put in their best. Concerning the women, we are speaking to women, we are speaking to men. The message is the same to women. Everybody must operate on some foundations of values of character that are true and that are enduring. In the US, they did a research. They did a research over how many years? Over 200 years of success in the US, for example. The people who are great, who made it. They discovered that the first, I think 160 years until about the 1920s, everything was based on real character, the deep character. But after that, they discovered that what is now happening is personality ethic. What is called the personality ethic. You want to pretend to be what you are not. You want shortcuts. You want to be a pretender.
Fake
you want
it
to
to
be.
make it.
You want fake it to make it. You speak it and you have it. But these are false paradigms.
It's like you want to. You intend to not just shake tables, break the tables. Let me ask you, Mr. Joseph. You spoke about love. I don't know if it was you. You spoke about love the other time.
I spoke about love.
Okay,
yes.
Speaking about love as the core of it all.
Love, sacrifice, integrity.
Let's stick with that love. In the Bible, when I checked 1 or 2 times before, I found that there are 16 characteristics of love in that love chapter. 16.
Yeah.
Corinthians.
Yes. 16 characteristics. And the number 1 characteristic is patience.
Yes.
We are in a hurry.
Yes, sir.
Hello, why are you laughing? And we are to be patient, otherwise we do not demonstrate love. How are we going to get that value of patience in this conference?
Okay, we are in ACE.
Please don't laugh.
Thank you very much. That is very deep, and I will take it from the perspective of a home. You know, given traditionally, the husband is the head of the home, okay? And a shepherd has one of its key, value as love. So if every home in Nigeria, if the head of the home demonstrates love to his wife, to his children, there will be peace in that home. The patience you are looking for in that 1 Corinthians 13, you will find it there. Oh, the humility you want when a husband is loving, the wife will humble herself. The husband too will humble himself in demonstrating love. Love is not proud. Love does not flaunt. Love does not come out to boast. So as a shepherd leader in the home, all these things will not be there. There will be sacrificial. The man wants to give his all, wants to give himself to ensure that the family stand and the children fulfill their purpose and their destiny. So what we are saying, that the 5 pillars or 6 pillars that the shepherd leadership is built on, number 1 is love and empathy for the people that he or she is leading. Oh, number 2 is sacrificial. This leader wants to sacrifice. It's not about asking you to cut your coat to your size.
Well, he's wearing a
doing the other way. So all of us, we need to begin to. That's what a shepherd leader will not tell you to do what he or she will not do.
Okay, we're coming to the end of it. So, who's going to remind us again? The date of the conference is
14th and 15th.
14th and
Friday,
15th.
July 14th. Okay. Saturday, July 15th.
The venue again?
Starts 9 a.m. One Resurrection Grant and Lekki does Jack on the First Gate.
Okay.
That's the venue of the program.
And we're told that we can register
online.
www.llconference.com.
The website is on, and this is the registration portal. These are the information you have to give. So it's really not, they're not asking for your BVN.
No.
And they're not asking
for your NIN.
And it's free.
No one is asking for your NIN. and it's free. Okay, let me be sure. Okay, there is no bank card.
And there's so much things packaged, they will carry go.
Oh, really? Tell us about that one. You're the secretary.
So we have our brochure this year very, very rich and loaded. And then our menu this year is quite, our kitchen is being made by a very popular.
You know, when
you don't want them to come just because they want to come and eat.
So when you download a free app, there's also usually
something
inside inside the app. You usually have to pay something to get to the higher.
This
grade.
is free.
This is what this one is about.
This one is paid for.
Okay, absolutely free.
Yes, just come and then come prepared to be blessed.
That's a way of showing
Mr.
an example of shepherd leadership. Really.
Mr. Adeniran spoke about what? My God. My brain has gone on break.
No. You just come to the conference, the Shepherd's conference. You know.
We look forward to seeing both of you.
And please don't go there just because you want to go and eat.
Why not?
Definitely.
Even though he has said they have a fantastic kitchen waiting for you. That's just an add-on.
Yes, it's an add-on.
What makes you think that that's not the reason?
Is that why you will go?
There are bachelors that are... Okay, anyway. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here this morning. And we can only hope for the best, for you at this conference. Mr. Adeniran has already said you're expecting between 4,000 and 5,000 people this year.
No, the 4,000.
About 4,000 people this year.
Online and physical.
Okay, Thank you so much for being here this morning. Mr. Ademola Adeniran is a member of the LLC 2023 Strategic Committee representing the chairman, Shino Joseph, the secretary, as well as Mr. Femi Aminu, member of the LLC 2023 Strategic Committee. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're still for leadership to happen well. There's the need for education. That's up next when we return from this break.
Organizations now operate in a rapidly changing business environment of transitions, disruptions, and ambiguity. Texam UK presents its Winning in Turbulent Times program, a 2-day executive development program that equips strategic leaders with skills to navigate dynamic business landscapes. Professor Rudi Alalin, a former advisor to the Netherlands Prime Minister, Harvard, INSEAD, and IESE visiting professor, developer of the first ATM card intellectual property, will leverage Texam's proven and impactful methodology. Date 12th to 13th July 2023. Venue Whitbaker, Ikoyi, Lagos. Cost 1,414,500 naira after discount, covering study materials, select meals, group pictures, and certificate. For further information, visit www.texam.co.uk or email exec@texam.co.uk. Call +44 7425 883791.
Texam, insights that inspire, actions that change the world.
Progressive Governors Forum most heartily congratulate all the newly inaugurated principal officers of the National Assembly. Your emergence as principal officers is a call to higher national service, especially now that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is determined to implement his Nigeria's Renew Hope programs. Given the critical roles you are expected to play along with your colleagues in the two chambers, you cannot afford to disappoint Nigerians and the various political parties that produce you. It is on that score that I urge all of you and the leadership of the entire National Assembly to work assiduously for the benefit of the country. Once again, congratulations.
Senator Hope Uzodinma CON, Chairman Progressive Governors Forum and Governor, Imo State.
remix, believe it or not. The remix, believe it or not. Believe it or not, believe it or not. This is how it should be done. Cause this style is identical to none. How can it make you dance? Come on, that's what you came here for, right? Alright.
Mo wá dúpẹ́ oore àná, bàbá mo dúpẹ́ o. Mo wá dúpẹ́ oore ní, bàbá mo dúpẹ́ o. Mo tún dúpẹ́ oore ọ̀la o, bàbá mo dúpẹ́ o. Bàbá mo dúpẹ́ o, bàbá mo dúpẹ́ o. Bàbá mo dúpẹ́ o, bàbá mo dúpẹ́. Bí mo bá jí lówùúrọ̀ kùtùkùtù máa dorí mi mú. Mo ṣoríire o, ẹlẹ́dàá mi, mo dúpẹ́ o. Bí mo bá jí lówùúrọ̀ kùtùkùtù máa dorí mi mú. Mo ṣoríire o, ẹlẹ́dàá mi, mo dúpẹ́ o. Mo ṣoríire o, ẹlẹ́dàá mi, mo dúpẹ́ o. Mo ṣoríire o, ẹlẹ́dàá mi, mo dúpẹ́ o. Ọlọ́run àgbáyé, Ọlọ́run àgbáyé, Ọlọ́run àgbáyé, Ọlọ́run àgbáyé, ìwọ nìkan ní ìgbẹ́kẹ̀lé mi.
Thank you for staying with us. Have you heard about that before? The Africa Education Medal? Well, you're about to hear more about it. But you know, the important thing here is that education is critical to our future in Africa. I mean, it empowers communities, gives students the skills they need to succeed in a rapidly changing world. And it helps to reduce poverty and inequality. It also produces the scientists and leaders that we need in Africa to tackle Africa's challenges and prepare us for our future. We understand that the Africa Education Medal is aimed at honoring individuals who have demonstrated exceptional impact, leadership, and advocacy in the field of education in Africa. And the award celebrates their tireless efforts and shines a light on their stories, or the stories of change that can inspire others to take action. This morning we have one of them who is a winner this year. Please welcome Simi Wogogo, who is CEO JA Africa Nigeria. She was named the winner of the Africa Education Medal launched by T4 Education and HP in collaboration with Microsoft. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Even this smile itself is a winner's smile.
Thank you for having me.
What did you have to do to win? Maybe I can do it too. Why is she laughing?
No, that can't be all.
No, I'm very grateful to T4 HP and Microsoft for this honor. It brings validation to our work at Junior Achievement, and I was very shocked when I heard that we won, because T4 used to do the Global Teacher Prize. So when I think of Africa Education Medal, I immediately think of teachers, and we at Junior Achievement are more entrepreneurship education. So winning this award for us is really a validation for what we do, that it really improves the education outcomes for the students who go through our programs in different schools.
Okay, you need to be a little more explicit, or rather explicit a little further on what you do, and what was it that qualified you for this award?
Sure. So Junior Achievement, or JA, is a global organization, and I run the Africa operation. So I'm CEO for JA Africa. I've been on this stage before when I was ED of JA Nigeria.
Okay.
And so my involvement started as the executive director for Junior Achievement in Nigeria. And what we do is we teach young people basically to be ready for the future of work. We do financial literacy, digital literacy, entrepreneurship, and work readiness programs to get them ready from the age of 5 all the way to 29. And the goal is to get people who immediately they leave education, they're employable. They can get jobs, they can create jobs, they can employ others. And our flagship program, which we've discussed on this stage several times, is a company program where we go into secondary schools and teach entrepreneurship by doing. And so they actually start businesses, develop businesses, and run businesses. And at the end of the school year, they have a competition to choose a winner for each country. And then each country winning team comes to the Africa competition, and the Africa winning team then goes to the global competition. And we're very proud that this year the Africa team actually, for the first time ever, won at the global competition. So Africa is showing that our youth can compete with youth from anywhere in the world.
What did they showcase that actually won them the award?
So this was a team from Zimbabwe, and they built a study buddy. That's an app for studying, for helping young people study. So during the pandemic really damaged a lot in the education system in Zimbabwe. And so what they did was they created everywhere.
Forget Zimbabwe,
really, everywhere.
Yes.
So what they did was they created the system where students could actually work one-on-one with teachers, and they could help each other as a community to study. They helped the teachers with learning tools that they could use and form a community. So it really demonstrated improvement in education outcomes in Zimbabwe. So they got a lot of awards in Zimbabwe, and when they came to Africa, they won the Africa Cup, and when they went to the global competition, they also won at the global competition, $15,000 for their business. These are secondary school students.
Wow. Simi, I'm sorry to put a little hole in your bubble, just a tiny one.
Bring it away.
I saw a video this morning of some matriculating pupils.
Yes.
And they were asked, so when you graduate, what degree are you going to come out with? BSc. What is the meaning of BSc? They didn't have a clue. What is the meaning of NIN? No clue.
But that
so are these the ones you are training to go and get awards?
Well, that is in itself what we're fighting, because the education system, even if they could tell you what BSc means, it doesn't necessarily mean they're actually equipped to work in the world.
Yes.
Because the way the traditional education system operates, we study, we cram, we regurgitate at the exam. There are no real skills. And so what we do at Junior Achievement is actually give them skills. And you know, I was just at the World Economic Forum Growth Summit 2 months ago, where they published this Future of Jobs report. And they talked about the skills. Like, it's not about degrees anymore.
No.
It's now about skills. Employers want to see, what are you skilled to do? What can you do? Why should I hire you over this person?
Yes.
So you can have somebody who did a 1-year skills program versus somebody who did a 4-year BSc, and they prefer this person because they know it's a data scientist. I can employ him to do data entry.
He's got hands-on experience.
He's got hands-on experience. He can code. He can solve problems for me. You know, so these are the things that we teach our young people, the skills for future work. You know, AI is a big one. Artificial intelligence. It's, you know, one of the things that we were discussing throughout the WEF Summit. Like, how do we equip young Africans with knowledge to be able to compete? AI is making so many jobs redundant now, particularly administrative work or any kind of work that is routine. You know, why would I hire people when I can get a robot to do it for me? Much more efficient. I make money.
The robot does not go on leave, does not fall sick.
Exactly. Exactly. Does not need flexible work schedule.
Doesn't need leave allowance.
Thank you.
You know, let me ask you this. I mean, in the light of what you just said now, when she talked about the BSc, one of the first few things you mentioned was the education syllabus.
Yes.
Okay. How significant a challenge is it? Because even the syllabus we have now, largely in Africa, largely
antiquated is the word.
Yes.
It teaches us antiquated book. And book isn't going to help you when you leave school.
You didn't say fossiled? So
it gets worse.
So how much of a challenge is that? I'm glad you are in the education space, so we can really talk about this. How much of a challenge is that in Africa?
It's a huge
Given
challenge.
that Africa is all arms open, all arms wide for anything ingenious.
Yes.
Thread came out how many days ago?
Yes.
We're all there already.
Oh, yes.
So Africa wants to embrace all technology.
Yes.
But we don't seem to be prepared for it.
Yes.
Especially with the kind of education
That we're getting.
syllabus and all of those that we have. How much of a challenge is that?
It is a huge challenge because there is such a huge opportunity for Africa. We are the youngest continent. A lot of the Western populations are aging. They're going to look to Africa in the future.
You mean
for,
old?
They're going to look to us for young people that can work. And they will find that if we don't change our education system, we don't have anybody to offer them because they don't have the skills. So there's a huge opportunity for us to skill our young people because they are the ones that will be the world's HR, will be HR suppliers to the world. You know, over 70% of our population is under the age of 30. And so 60% under the age of 25. So we are really, if we educate our young people, primed to be high growth economies in Africa. And so what do we need to do? We need to invest in technology. We cannot continue the way we are going. It has to be a massive investment in technology, both as in terms of content, but really even in terms of tools. Teachers need to be trained. You know, you said they want to do book. There is not enough book you can learn now because information is rapidly growing every day. How much book are you going to teach them?
How about policies? Forgive me, I'm going to say this again, Alaro. I've looked at the Nigeria's education policy. Honestly, as far as my unlearned head is concerned, that policy expired 20 years ago, as far as I am concerned, because I didn't see anything futuristic, in my opinion. I'm not an educationist. I'm just a Nigerian who is troubled by some things. I've looked at the education policy, I've looked at the health policy. I'm not sure I've seen the our technology policy and all of those things. So in terms of policy, speaking to governments at the federal and states levels now, what should we be focusing on?
We should be focusing on supporting the edtechs to develop the kind of infrastructure we need to solve this problem.
English. What's edtechs?
So education. So if you look at the unicorns that have come out of Nigeria, the unicorns are billion-dollar businesses that have come out of Nigeria, is because the fintechs, the financial technology companies, were allowed to solve the problem of banking, the unbanked, and create tools that, people can perform transactions on their phones. We need the same kind of thing for technology, where young people who are using technology to get education to the masses are encouraged to build, because we cannot build enough schools. We have over 12 million students out of school in Nigeria. You can't build enough schools. You can't train enough teachers. So you really need to depend on technology as a tool to get what is needed, the education that is needed, which is skills for the future, to young people who need that. And it has to be in bite size. It has to be, okay, if I take a course in 6 months that can get me a job, I'll take it. And then I'll go back for more so that I can improve. I go back for more. So it's really that one-to-one or even one-to-many, but really using technology both as the infrastructure and also as the content.
Yeah, you keep harping on technology.
Yes.
Is that the only way that we can prepare these young people for the future? Is there no place for technical schools
when I say
all
technology, it means all those things. So TVET institutions, technical vocational training institutions, all those things. So you have there's nothing. If you hire a plumber or a carpenter in some countries right now, they use technology.
Yeah, true.
They use to even basically figure out what the problem is and everything, to pinpoint. You go to construction sites in Western, and they're using technology to get the. So everything is really, no matter how. So it's not just.
You take your car in, you say there's something wrong with your car.
Yes.
And he brings out some equipment, he plugs it on. Bloop, 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 diagnosis. He tells you exactly what's wrong with your car.
We are still trying to do things manually.
Some don't even plug in now. They just put a modem on your system and they're working around.
Yes.
And they're telling you everything that is wrong with your car.
Yes.
It's now wireless.
Yes. Everything. So we have to get our young people those skills. So when you're talking about, robots don't need this, who's programming the robots? So that's the skill we need to get, the coding, the AI, all those things. Otherwise, all these AI is going to take over the world, is going to kill us. It will, because you are getting the wrong people to program them.
Are we aware of how dire this situation is?
I don't think so.
No. You will speak to it further. I'll give you an example. In this studio, for instance, there are 5 cameras, right? And it's being powered by just one person. Hitherto would have 5 individuals. Yes, five cameras. So 5 men handling the different cameras. But now it's just one person. That's just one example.
Yes.
I understand that there is a car manufacturer, I think it was Mercedes.
Yes.
That their entire production line, 80% of their production line is just robots.
Yes, there's so many. And the globalization, there's a reverse, where people used to go to China and all these other countries to go and look for cheap labor. They've come back into their countries because they have robots.
Yes.
They don't have to worry about sweatshops, humanitarian, somebody is suing me for running child labor. Everything is now robots.
No wonder you won the award.
And there's no child robots and adult robots.
No wonder she won the award. Now, tell us about that process for you, because a number of people watching will be like, okay, she won the award because maybe I should do the same thing. Is that all there is to it? For instance, how did you start out in this line, this trajectory that you're in that's giving you this acclaim, this global acclaim?
So I, growing up in Nigeria as a smart student, you are encouraged to be a doctor, a lawyer. So I went off to university thinking I was going to be a doctor, a lawyer in the US, and quickly realized that I didn't like either of them. And so I was lost for a while. I didn't know what I wanted to be or who I wanted to be. And it was an internship after several internships that I realized that I love business, but I love business as social enterprise and strategy, problem solving. So all those words were new to me because I didn't learn them in school. And so I, ended up going to work for Goldman Sachs at the time, an investment bank, and they were a huge supporter of JA in New York. And so when I was teaching JA programs as a volunteer was when I said to one of the leaders of JA New York that I wish I had had this as a young child. I would have known sooner what I love to do and what I would like to do with my life. And he said, they're trying to go to Africa. Maybe you can take it to Africa. So I brought JA to Nigeria back then, I think it was 99. And what we've done since then is really go through a lot of metamorphosis to say, what do we need as a country? Now I run Africa, so I'm thinking, what do we need as a continent? And it was really that business education, soft skills, critical thinking, problem solving. These are the skills that even the WEF reports that I referred to earlier, they interviewed over 800 companies in 45 countries, leading companies. What are you looking for when you hire? Number one was analytical reasoning, critical thinking, problem solving, design thinking, AI, ability to work with artificial intelligence technology. We're not teaching that in Nigeria. So these are the things.
Are we teaching it in Africa?
I'm sure some young people, if you told them AI, they would look at you like,
what is that?
What does that mean?
The only thing they will know, when you say AI, they will think of ChatGPT, and that's probably all of it.
Which is a fantastic tool. Our schools are banning because they think that it's
the
cheating.
Children will not think.
They will not learn.
I agree with them because when you were growing old, your own slate didn't have memory of its own your own iPad didn't have a memory of its own. You had to wipe it and write a fresh thing. But in terms of looking, running Africa, as you said, there are peculiarities that many people don't see. Help us understand it, because when we think about Africa, think about education, many people see Africa only from their position. Kenyans think of Africa in the light of Kenya. But there is Algeria, there's Ethiopia, there's Tunisia, and the number of these countries are largely Arabic in their cultures and all those things. Is there a role for culture in education that needs to be domesticated? I saw a video some years ago of old Chinese women. Okay, let me just say Asian, because I don't know whether they are Chinese or Korean or Japanese. Old Asian women learning coding in Mandarin in their local language. So is there a place for localizing the language of education? Let me be more specific. Language of education, more specifically technology, for the various segments of Africa so we can, as you said, bring it home.
So the beauty of technology sometimes is that language is becoming fast irrelevant, because you soon have something that it might be written in English, you wear glasses and you read it in French, So there's a place for that where, language is no longer a barrier. But before that, let me go to the question on culture. Culture is very relevant, and I think even beyond culture is identity. Knowing who you are, where you come from, it gives you that kind of confidence. And I'm really glad that our young people now are becoming even more proud to be Nigerian, because, there's the Afrobeat culture, there is the Nollywood culture, there's a lot of things that is making Nigeria look cool. But going beyond that is, how are we imbibing how are we developing the education system such that our young Nigerians can compete anywhere in the world? The first thing that occurred to me when I came into this role in Africa is really how bad our system is compared to other African countries. I meet students in Kenya who are brilliant, and when they write an essay to even say, come and give me a job, the CV you get is compared to a Nigerian CV that have errors and typos, and so it really made me sad.
Kenya is beating us.
Yes, Kenya. Unfortunately, the education system is much better than ours.
Okay.
Even Ghana.
That hurt.
Yes.
It's time to go.
But there's light at the end of the tunnel, which is why, there's so many different, even the shortlisted 10 people in this award, it really gave me a lot of hope, because there are many social entrepreneurs in the field of education that are closing that gap. Okay. They're doing a lot of work in education to close that gap, and so is JA.
I'm overwhelmed by the things that you're doing already.
Sorry,
but just a quick one. JA, the website. Your website is ja-africa.org.
Yes, ja-africa.org.
ja-africa.org, that's your website, and a good number of people can learn so much about what you do and offer the support. That's the website right there.
Yes.
And as you can see, yes, we have put our medal.
Yes, and we have programs, like I said, from a very young age.
Our own Simi.
Exactly. What would be very interesting?
You see how we're claiming you quickly now?
What would be wonderful is for people to go to that website, ja-africa.org. If you don't see that medal there, it's not our own. ja-africa.org, that's the website. There is a lot that you'll be hearing about Simi Ogugu as well as Junior Achievers Africa. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Truly appreciate your time.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, most certainly. Simi Ogugu is CEO JA Africa. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, one of the things that she said to us is that we need to put our children under pressure to achieve, but they're already under pressure. We'll talk about that when we return from this break. Girls, so we still girls. Dreams come true. Here I come, baby, looking out for you. Please, oh, open your door. Baby,
under pressure.
avoid that friction.
They're always under pressure.
I didn't ask Kimoni.
Young people, you know, don't forget that they're always going through a lot. You already know that the teen years can be tough and rough.
Yeah.
You're fighting, you're figuring out who you are, what you believe, what you're good at, what your responsibilities are, what your place in the world is going to be. All that is going through your head. And all that to a teenager
is a lot. Very, very a lot.
It's comforting to face those challenges with friends who are into the same things that you are.
Facing the same challenge.
But you probably hear adults, you know, parents and teachers, and they talk about peer pressure more than the benefits of belonging to a peer group. Now, let's talk about this peer pressure thing. Okay, all your classmates are smoking now, and because you don't want to smoke, you feel left out, and they don't want to talk to you because you're not one of them, so to speak. That's peer pressure right there. After a month or so, you succumb, and the next thing, you're hiding cigarettes in the house, and mom is smelling cigarettes and wondering where the smell is coming from. Anyway, we have a specialist in the house. It's my pleasure to welcome Mutolani Falabi, CEO, Praise for Wowe International. She is a family life therapist.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for having you again. Welcome.
You mean thank you for bringing the cane again? Okay, because she's going to drive, rain it all on us. Yeah. Well, let's just go straight to it and ask you, do you think parents understand peer pressure in a way to help the children, the teenagers who are going through this pressure, understand and go through it?
I don't think that parents understand it, right? So that's why it's easy for them to scold the teenagers and say, why would you allow yourself to be pressurized into doing this? But as parents, aren't we even under pressure ourselves? So I think I know. I want to answer your question.
I asked that so that we can really lay the foundation, so that it will be an educational for parents and guardians. So if they don't understand it, what is the attention that they need to give? What is it that they need to understand?
Okay.
So that they can give the adequate love, adequate concentration, adequate focus on their children.
Now, so for peer pressure, oftentimes teenagers I've been faced with a lot of them, and when you ask questions, they feel like the whole world is looking at them, even when nobody really is looking at them. I was in a research recently, and teenagers, I was asking a series of questions from them, and then they say, if I don't do this certain thing, it feels like I'm alone, I'm left out. Even when nobody's really looking at me, they would even attest to the fact that it's not as if everyone's looking at me, but I just feel that pressure. I just feel it. Like somebody's looking at me. I needed to at least feel among. And of course, because in our secondary schools these days, if you are not participating in what everybody's doing, then they call you a snitch. Nobody really wants to be your friend, and because you don't want to be left out. And now this would come from a place of identity for the teenagers. If you understand who you are, I usually would say anyone would misbehave when they don't know who they are. They would also misbehave if they have forgotten who they are. So if they don't get that validation from home, so for someone like me growing up in a house where I constantly hear my father tell me that I'm the most beautiful girl in the world, there's nothing anybody wants to tell me outside that makes me doubt that. So what is the validation that parents give to their teenagers? Are you listening to them? Do you have that relationship with your children? Are you allowing someone outside the home to outlove you, to outlove your children? So if if they feel like mommy does not love me because maybe there are some certain behaviors that I put out, and a lot of my friends will just, let it go because every other person is doing it. So they feel more comfortable. When I work with teenagers, you hear them say, I'm more comfortable with my friends. So when you're more comfortable with your friends, you feel like they understand you better than your parents. You feel like they love you more than your parents. Oftentimes, you want to listen to the people you think love you the most and, understand you, as they would say, oh, mommy does not understand what I'm going through. Mommy does not understand me. I don't even feel like my parents love me. I only get a well done maybe when I have straight A's. And it's not just all about academics, for them. There are other things that they're doing so well, but because we're not paying attention to it, and then we just feel, oh, you are good for nothing. You have. And when teenagers tell me, my mom told me that, my brain cannot pick how a parent would use such words, and these are things that affect them.
So when we'll come to more of that, the consequences of this, but when a teenager says, "Mommy does not understand me," is it indeed that mommy does not understand? What are the challenges that the parent, let me not say mommy now before you crucify me. Is it that the parent does not understand, or the language of communication of both generations are at variance?
Yeah. I think it's more of the communication, right? So a child behaves in a certain way. The parent not observing to see what happened before this child did this. Parents not coming down to say, let me fact find, let me figure out what is happening with this child. Just begins to label. They don't understand it, and then they are making a case out of what they don't understand. And the child is saying, let's have a conversation. Even try and understand why I did this. And you would agree with me that even as adults, a lot of the craziest things that we had done when we were teenagers, you will see a man saying, no, the first time I drove was my father's car. There is something in the teenager that I don't know how it works in their brain, but they just want to take risk. They want to try out some certain things. Not because they don't know that there are consequences, or not because they don't feel like it's bad. They just want to explore. Now, you're not in their brain trying to see, oh, because we've also done this in time past. So why are we forgetting that there is a part of them that wants to explore and see what it feels like? Right? At that point, they want you to have a conversation to see what happened? What was going through your mind when you did this? But no, we just, start labeling or start giving punishment for something that we don't understand. And they expect that, mommy, you probably have done this before. They probably have heard you say it, to say you took your father's car out and then you bashed it and maybe you hit it and then you were beating.
Did that, but I'm not even going to give my child my key now to drive. But
so we're probably guilty of the same thing.
When you raise these issues, perhaps the challenge for many parents, and you would identify with this, is the parent has gone through it, knows the consequence, and is telling you, must you learn from your own experience? But you would rather just say, okay, I've had reason to ask my 14-year-old, you were told not to go to this place or to do this thing. Why do you do it? I forgot.
Sincerely, they forgot.
Huh?
She forgot.
No. I don't understand.
If she said she forgot, it meant that she forgot. Okay. All right, so there is also a place of, I want to find out, have you observed that when you say don't do this, your brain then tends to...
That's exactly what he's going to do.
Want to... Why are they telling me not to? I want to experience for myself.
Did you do that when you were growing up?
Yes.
No, then
even when you know the consequences. And then I get it. I've been warned several times to say, oh, don't do this. A part of my brain will just tell me, like, maybe my outcome won't be yours. Maybe I won't get caught. Maybe mine wouldn't be as bad as yours. Maybe you weren't smart enough was why what happened to you happened. So there's just a place in the teenage brain that feels, I have it covered. I can handle this. And then they go in there and go, maybe I can handle this. But at that point, they then need the love and the guidance of the parent.
Tolani, something just came to my mind now. In the 80s, there was a cover story in the Time magazine And it read, "We are the people our parents warned us against."
Exactly. Exactly.
I will never forget that cover story because it struck home with me. After I had a good laugh, I then read it and I thought, this is so true. Our parents don't know half the things we get up to. And when they're telling you, you should not smoke, it's bad for you. You should not go out to parties when you're in school too much. Make sure you read your books. And you read this thing and you say, yeah.
Right.
All the things he says, he says, okay, Tolani is doing those things, so please be careful with Tolani. I am the one taking Tolani out to do all those things.
Exactly. So why you think they're influencing your children? Your children might be the one
influencing them. So, I mean, this peer pressure and this teenage thing, how do parents handle it?
Lately, because of the kind of cases that come into the office and the kind of calls that we receive, I've been intentional about doing a research on how their brain works. And one of the things I'm finding out is there's a part of them, I'm not a science that understand how their brain and all the technical, but then there's a part of their brain that is not fully developed where they can make certain decisions that we're expecting them to behave like adults and say, no, you should know this. They don't know. And in the research, it was saying that their brain is not fully formed until 25. Right, but they would, you can't tell an 18-year-old that she's not fully developed. She would argue it out with you. There's a part of her brain that tells her, I know what I'm doing, but they don't. And that's why we still need to, coach and guide them. And like we would always say, your report card is what you will get at 19.
Yes.
So all of those things that you have done. So when they were age 0 to 3, what were you modeling to them?
Yes.
What did they see you? What values did you impute in them?
Yes.
Is there a part of them that says, like someone was saying, I did not misbehave because the words of my mother was always ringing in my ear to say, know the son of whom you are. Now the question is, what is our family known for? My family is known for responsibility. We're responsible people. Now, so if you ask a typical child in any family to say, what is your family known for? Nothing. They don't stand for any value. And then what the parents just do is dish out, don't do this, don't do that. And the things that you're saying they should not do. Oh, don't smoke. They have an uncle who comes to the house, who smokes, who is still healthy. Nothing has happened to him. Or you say, don't have sex, and then they tell you some stars that they respect have baby mamas, and he's still doing very well in his career. So really, the society at large also has some level of responsibility.
You led me to the question of culture. Most of the time when we're talking about these issues, we're speaking about urban Nigeria. Is it the same thing in suburban or rural Nigeria?
Yes, but we're dealing with different things. So a child who is in some rural, some village does not understand that there's something called threat that just
came out.
So
do they even know?
They don't know. They don't have a phone. So yes, there's a bit of them also who wants to explore, who wants to take risk, right? But we're not dealing with these things at the same level. But it would still be something within their environment that their parents would also feel, oh, you don't listen, or maybe there is some moonlight story at night that they would want to go for, that the parents will say, oh no, I don't want you to go, do this. Or there will be some river that they want to go up high the mountain to go jump down and do all of those diving. It's risky because a part of them feel, oh, I can swim, and so let me try this. But the parents would not want them to do it. So there is some form of pressure. And one of the things I also realize with teenagers is when they're alone, their risk-taking is reduced. But when they are with their peers, they want to, there's a part of them that wants to show that I I can't.
Whatever
so-
you can do, maybe I can
yes, I can do better.
Yes, and one of the research I was doing was saying that they were carrying out a research on teenagers, and they realized that when they were alone, I think it was a driving research, adults and the teenagers were making the same, taking the same level of risk. But the minute they put the teenager in a room where he knew that other teenagers were looking at him, the risk level increased, because there's a part of him that wants to say, I can do this. Let me show off that I have the ability, to do this.
Perhaps it also leads to what you said, or it stems from what you said earlier about they knowing themselves, right? So how do parents take their children, their teenagers, on that journey? How do the teenagers themselves navigate away from this pressure? Because some of them actually know that the peer pressure has some significant negative effect on them, even though it is motivating. How do we navigate the teenagers to know who they are as being not superior, not inferior, but unique in themselves? How do we get there? What help do they need to get there?
So it wouldn't start from when they're teenagers, but let's say peradventure they had moved and they're now teenagers. You want to sit down and start having that conversation. Help them draw out their strengths. Let them understand, because oftentimes they want to compete because, let's say they're probably not doing well in academics and you have always maybe compared them with other friends, but there are some certain things that they do better than any other person.
Absolutely.
So you want to help them identify what their strength is, something that gives them, because why are they pressurized to do what others are doing? There is some energy, pump of energy. What is that thing that also gives them that same feeling?
So how do we do that? How do people help them discover this uniqueness?
So if you can't by yourself, you might want to seek the help of a professional. But aside that, you want to pay attention and observe. What is even the personality of that child? It's from observation, questioning, what do you love? Like I was having a session with a teenager and the father says, I don't even know what he's useful for. I don't think it's useful for anything. I said, no, that can't be. It would be useful for something. And from questioning, I figured out that he loves to create game. But the father just thinks that he likes to play game. Playing game was not enough. But if you don't engage in conversation, right, you might not get it from one conversation. Allow them explore a lot of things. Then you will figure out what it is that they love to do, something that gives them that pleasure. Yes, they play game, they spend a lot of time on their phone, and this child is saying, I can create a better one. I want to learn to code, I want to learn how to create games, but the father just, you must go to science school and then go be a medical doctor. So you want to sit with them and help them figure out what their strength is. Of course, from conversations, or you want to, have a mentor, a therapist, something that can work with them and help them figure out that innate strength that they have. Okay. That would also give them that level of, energy and pump that peer pressure would give them. Something that they feel, I'm very good at this.
This is only a starter.
Yeah. She's always coming here with starters.
It's only a start, because we need to talk about teenagers a lot more, because I'm sure there are many parents out there who are trying to figure out their teenagers.
They're just lost.
And the thing is, when you spoke about their brains are not fully developed till they're 25, the parent tries to guide them, and they look at the parent like,
you are dinosaurs.
I'm old enough.
What does this dinosaur want to tell me? What does this dinosaur know that he wants to tell me? Me, I'm techie, So that I think we're going to have to bring you back.
Absolutely.
To conclude this discussion about dealing with teenagers and peer pressure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motolani Falabi, CEO, Praise for Wowe International, and she is a family life therapist. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sunrise will be right back with the home stretch. Do stay with us.
Believe it or not, this is how it should be done. Cause this style is identical to none. How can I make you dance? Come on, that's what you came in for, right? Alright.
jábọ́ mo wá dúpẹ́ oore àná bàbá mo dúpẹ́ mo wá dúpẹ́ oore ní bàbá mo dúpẹ́ mo tún dúpẹ́ oore ọ̀la o bàbá mo dúpẹ́ 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 bí mo bá jí lówùúrọ̀ kùtùkùtù máa dorí mi mú mo ṣoríire o ẹlẹ́dà mi mo dúpẹ́ o bí mo bá jí lówùúrọ̀ kùtùkùtù máa dorí mi mú mo ṣoríire o ẹlẹ́dà mi mo dúpẹ́ o mo ṣoríire o ẹlẹ́dà mi mo dúpẹ́ o mo ṣoríire o ẹlẹ́dà mi mo dúpẹ́ o.
Well, he's from a family. And of course, that's the cat is out of the bag. That is our guest this morning. Our artist of the week is Paul Play Dairo, Nigerian musician, singer, songwriter, best known for that song that you just heard, Angel of My Life, and several others. He's sitting pretty right there. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Why are you sitting down like a gentleman?
I am.
Why is he so tickled? Paul, good to see you after so many years.
Good morning, ma.
What happened to your hair?
My hair is there. I packed it. I didn't want people to scold me.
You are an artist. Come on. Take that cap off.
No, I know. No.
Okay. Don't worry, we've seen the thing.
My pastor will be watching, so.
All right. Tell us, I mean, there are those who have, when, my colleague and I were talking behind the camera, was like, where's Paul been all this while? So, where have you been? We know that you've had quite some.
I have jackpot.
No, don't worry, you soon jackpot.
I have jackpot for now.
What's been happening? It would seem like a number of people would say, Paul just suddenly went off the radar. He just decided to not be visible again. Can you give us an idea what happened?
Nothing really. I just decided I've lived all my life in Nigeria, most of my life, rather. It's just a change of making different decisions and actually trying to be with my family, because most times I'm always in Nigeria. My family is in the UK, so my children are in their formative years. So I think before they grow old and, get married, I think it's better. Nigeria is always the best place for me to stay, to live in, but all my family members live here, so I think it's good to be with my children, raise them properly, be a father rather than being just a musician. So I think the next 3 years, I should be with my children, and Nigeria will always be a place that I want to live in, because I'll be back very soon. But this is mainly because of my children, yeah.
So you help them avoid all of that peer pressure we were talking about earlier. Now, a quick one.
No, what? The peer pressure in the UK is another kettle of fish.
Oh, really?
You don't want to know. It's
Paul,
over here as well.
I hope none of them is trying to change their sex.
No, I don't imagine. No way. The peer pressure here is also as tough as it is in Nigeria as well. But it's the woke mentality is actually making a lot of creating a lot of controversy around here. So.
Okay, perhaps that's really the subject of this conversation, Paul. I see on Facebook and a number of other platforms that you're trying as much as possible not just to keep abreast of what's going on at home, but also to follow your industry, the industry that you've been in for so long. What's been your impression? I see that some of the things that you put up is just to drop some corrective nuggets here and there. what are the issues for you? The Nigerian music has gone global, no doubt about it. So what are the things that you would say are unique that we need to give attention to so that the industry, the music industry, can remain as forthright, as forward-looking, as developmental, as influential as it has become?
Well, it's been a long journey. I actually posted something yesterday about my conversation with one old man, elderly person, 2003, and he actually confronted me and said that myself and my colleagues are trying to destroy music in Nigeria, and we're mixing traditional music with foreign music, which is what we call Afrobeat today. But if you look around you now, if you look at the environment and look at the whole world, the world entertainment scene, you see that Afrobeat is really growing and is big worldwide. So I think we that they call the OGs really work for this industry. We tried our best when there was no money, when there was no support, when there was no encouragement from corporate Nigeria. We're always going at it and doing our things. But now, there's so much to be made. A lot of revenues are coming in via DSPs and the rest of them. So I don't think that there's really much to do in terms of changing the format. But what we really missed in the industry that we didn't have a strong structure.
We'll come to that structure in a minute, Paul. We'll come to that structure because it's very important, given what you've gone through and what you've also just mentioned now. Could be some of the challenges that the younger ones are having as well. But you spoke about you called it Afrobeats, the infusion of some local music styles into the global styles now and all. Is there a place for using music ambassadorially for the image of Nigeria? Not just in terms of just playing the music and all, but creating an identity for the nation that the whole world not only wants to embrace, but also wants to contribute to and help develop.
Well, yes, I think so. I would like to take us back to maybe the mid-90s or the early mid-80s to mid-90s. The kind of music that Nigerians were listening to were basically what I would call conscious music, or songs about the society, mismanagement by government and all that. Reggae music was the in thing back then, and there were a lot of songs that you could say, well, these are great people who actually play that kind of music were referred as, activists or people who want Nigeria to be seen, in a better light, or like people who want to create a better reputation for the country. But Afrobeats and the kind of music that we listen to today is really not. We don't have many artists who are actually doing that are actually talking about, positivity or anything that could put Nigeria, give Nigeria a good image out there. So I don't think that the industry is actually looking in that direction. And I don't think you can have control over what an artist decides to put out, because it's their own prerogative to decide to, record any kind of music. Like I said a couple of weeks back, there's no music for the young people, there's no music for the kids. The kids get to listen to music that are being played by adults. So how do you control that? Because it really brings us back to that issue of not having a structure.
Good.
Right.
Now, let's go to the issue of structure now. Incidentally, just yesterday, my wife and I sat down to watch Gazab all over again. Of course, you know that Indian film, Gazab.
Yeah.
And one of the things that anyone will tell you about India is their movies and their music. It's the identity for them. Nothing robbed them of that. So, but it also speaks to the fact that they have a structure. Every Indian movie opens up with that Indian census board or something like that. There is some kind of system to ensure that things are done properly. So, in terms of structure, have we ever had structure? Yes or no? What is missing now? Do you see a time when it can come back and be used to service Nigeria in terms of pushing the image and laundering the image of the country?
Oh, well, that is a difficult question because if I say yes, there's a section of the music industry or a group in the music industry that will disagree with me. If I say no, there's another part, group of people that will say, you're in the wrong. We've had organizations like PMAN. There has been so much controversy, over, the presidency, the leadership on PMAN, and that has gone on for years and years. There's been so much back and forth. I think that is one of the problems that we face in the music industry. We've not been able to have one house where everybody will come to the table and actually, be united and discuss our issues, and also try to forge, a way forward and also, deliberate on things that could impact the music industry positively. That we have not been able to do.
Well, I guess that
PMAN is really, sanitized, and there's, everybody comes under that umbrella of PMAN. I think it will be better for the music industry. Also, we also have the issues with collecting societies. We have the COSN, we have MCSN, we have, there's so much disarray, right, in the music industry. There's so much inconsistency. There's so much, I'm not seeing anything that actually that can point at professionalism when it comes to the music structure in Nigeria. So that, I don't know how we're going to fix it. In Nigeria right now, we have a president of PMAN, which is Preeti, who's been doing great stuff. I've been watching what he's been doing, and I'm a member of PMAN. But there's another group of people who are not really with him, who are against what he's doing, who feel that they can do better. So as long as we continue to, find the embers of this unity in the music industry, we now move forward. So that has to be taken care of. I don't know who's going to come out there to mediate.
Well, at least it's better to have something than have nothing at all. So let's just hope that that will be taken care of. Just before we go, what's Paul Play up to now? What are we to expect from him? I'd say he's been too quiet for a little while.
I've been quiet. If you're talking about album releases have been a bit quiet. I've not really done anything. Trying to release any album. I've been taking my time, but in the area of recordings, in the area of performances, I've been doing my performances. I've been in the UK now. I've done close to like 7 shows in the UK.
Wow.
The top of the shows that I actually did was in Holborn, Pizza Express Live, which is one of the biggest platforms for renowned musicians and popular musicians all over the world. So I've done so many other. I've done Belfast, I've done London, I've done Ireland. So I'm doing my stuff on the. I've also been doing weddings and other engagements as well. So, but on the mainstream, I've not actually taken my time to sit down to do that because I've also I've been looking to other areas. I can't. I'm the kind of person that I like to explore other areas. Because I'm not getting any younger. I'm also into. I have a foundation in Nigeria, DC Foundation. I have a company called Resettlement in Nigeria. We're into mental health. So basically, that's what I've been doing. Just trying to take my time. But I hope to release a gospel album very soon. That'll be my next effort. So I think
So, Paul, Paul, you've had all these shows over there. When are you coming to give us a show at home? We miss you.
When they pay the money, when my account do better.
Why am I not surprised?
I agree.
Why am I not surprised? Well, thank you, Paul, for the privilege of having you this morning. Thank you so much for letting us know that at least. I'm pretty sure that before the end of today, before the end of this week, you're going to have quite a number of calls, because those who have been wondering, where's this guy? Well, now they know where you are on Channels Television. Paul Play Dairo, musician, music producer, singer, songwriter, band leader. Thank you so much for your time this morning on Sunrise.
Welcome.
Yeah.
And thank you all for spending your Saturday morning with us. We're glad that you did, and we were happy presenting the show to you as well. We'll see you again next time. My name is Alero Edu.
Thank you, federal government, for helping us with the road. It's better now. Please make it even more freer for people inward and outward Lagos. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I just had to mention that. I'm Ayo Makinde. Bye for now.